This is the Focus Shift podcast, your best listening experience for creating your best online business. We'll focus on topics that help you get discovered. So sit back, listen, take notes if you like, and get excited about growing your business.
We have all done it. I mean, you are scrolling on your phone, you see a recipe, a meme, or maybe a photo you want to send to a group chat and click.
Right, yeah.
You just squeeze those two buttons on the side of your device, the screen flashes, you get that satisfying little thumbnail in the corner, and you move on.
It is entirely muscle memory at this point.
It really is.
Sure.
Taking a screenshot is just an instant reflex. It is so impossibly convenient that it feels like breathing. But, if you stop and actually think about it, there is a massive amount of friction between the sheer frictionless ease of capturing that screen and the real-world value of the digital content you just, scooped up for free.
Yeah, we treat our devices like open buffet.
A buffet, exactly.
Right, because the hardware makes the act of saving an image so seamless that our brains just completely bypass any questions of ownership. I mean, if it is glowing on our screen, we inherently feel like it belongs to us.
Of course we do.
But there is a complex, invisible economy behind the pixels on your screen. The creators who actually build that economy, the ones staging, lighting, and editing those images, they are finding their livelihoods totally threatened by our collective screenshot reflex.
Yeah.
And they're starting to push back, and the technology they are using to do it is getting incredibly sophisticated.
So today, we are looking at some fascinating intel from the PhotoBiz Growth Hub. They published an article in July 2026 called Protecting Your Images Without Ruining the Client Gallery Experience.
A very telling title, by the way.
Right. It outlines how modern photographers are deploying brand new software to fight this exact habit. They are trying to reclaim the value of their digital labor without completely alienating their clients. So we are going to use this technology as a lens to explore the broader tension between digital convenience and creative ownership.
Because the era of the carefree screenshot is closing. The tools available to creators, they are no longer just passive warnings.
Like the old "please don't steal" text at the bottom of a page.
Exactly. Now, they are active countermeasures designed to interrupt our default behaviors.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand the cure, we really have to deeply understand the disease. The text starts with the psychology of the screenshot itself.
Yeah.
Like, why do clients do this in a professional photography setting?
Right. And we have to remember, it is not some shadowy syndicate of art thieves.
No.
It is usually just a mom looking at her family portraits or, a bride looking at her wedding proofs.
Yeah, they're just excited.
Exactly. The primary driver is pure, unadulterated excitement mixed with a little impatience. A client receives a link to a digital proofing gallery. They see a fantastic photo of themselves, and the immediate impulse is to share it.
They want it on Instagram immediately.
Right. They want to text it to their family right that second. They aren't thinking about the photographer's business model. They are thinking about the dopamine hit of sharing a great moment.
Just instant gratification.
Yeah. And the article also points out a genuine widespread lack of digital literacy. I mean, many people fundamentally do not grasp the difference between a low-resolution digital preview displayed in a web browser and a high-resolution purchased digital file.
They just see the image on their iPad and think, well, the transaction is complete.
Exactly.
It is wild when you think about it in a physical context. Like, imagine you were planning a wedding. You go to a high-end bakery for a tasting, right?
Okay, yeah.
And the baker has spent hours designing this stunning, intricate sample cake. But instead of deciding to buy the cake to feed your 200 guests at the reception, you just pull out your phone, take a photo of the sample cake, print it out on a piece of cardboard, and try to serve the cardboard to your guests.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, it is convenient. It saves you $1,000, but you are entirely skipping the actual product. You're just consuming the idea of the thing, not the thing itself.
That is a perfect way to put it. And the collateral damage of that behavior, it actually hits the creator twice. Well, first, there's the brand degradation. When you take a screenshot of a web gallery, you are capturing a highly compressed, low-resolution file.
Right. It is not the full-size image.
No, not at all. It might be pixelated, the colors might be totally compressed by your phone's display settings, and frankly, the cropping is usually terrible.
Oh, because they just screenshot the whole browser window.
Exactly.
Right.
And then the client, takes that mangled image and posts it on social media, tagging the photographer. So now the photographer's marketing portfolio, what everyone else sees, is full of these fuzzy, low-quality images representing their brand.
So the photographer's basically watching their premium gourmet cake being advertised as a smashed cupcake.
Yes, a smashed cupcake. And on top of that, it completely hollows out their revenue stream.
Yeah.
The unauthorized distribution entirely strips the image of its professional and financial value. If the preview becomes a viable substitute for the final product, the purchase never happens.
Right. But a photographer wouldn't risk annoying their paying clients with aggressive security software unless the bleeding was severe. Which leads us directly to the technological response PhotoBiz created to stop this behavior.
Yeah, the countermeasure.
Right.
Yeah.
Because historically, the solution was the watermark.
Yeah.
Photographer would just slap a massive semi-transparent logo right across the middle of the image.
Which completely destroys the utility of a proofing gallery.
Oh, it is awful.
Right. Because if there is a giant copyright symbol over the client's face, they cannot evaluate the photo, they can't check their expression, they can't look at the details of their clothing, and they certainly cannot feel an emotional connection to the image.
No. It is a terrible user experience. It feels hostile.
It does.
But this new PhotoBiz technology takes a totally different route. They introduced this blur feature. When you open the gallery, the image is pristine. You can zoom in, you can compare poses, you can see every eyelash.
It looks perfect.
But the absolute millisecond you attempt to take a screenshot, whether you are using a keyboard shortcut on a Mac or squeezing the buttons on an iPhone, the entire image instantly blurs in the captured version.
It is so fast.
You go to your camera roll thinking you nabbed the photo, and it is just a fuzzy, useless mess.
What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism. Like, how does a website know you are pressing physical buttons on your phone?
Yeah, how did it do that?
It comes down to how web browsers interact with device operating systems. When you initiate a screenshot, your operating system, iOS, Windows, Android, whatever it is, it broadcasts a tiny background signal indicating that a screen capture event is happening.
Like an alert.
Exactly. It takes a fraction of a second for the screen to actually flash and save the image. The PhotoBiz code is essentially listening for that specific operating system API call.
Oh, wow.
And the moment it detects the signal, the code injects a CSS blur filter over the image before the operating system can finish saving the visual data.
That is brilliant. It is
Right.
basically digital sleight of hand. They are pulling the tablecloth out from under the dishes right as the camera flashes.
That is exactly what they're doing. It targets the specific behavior of unauthorized saving without punishing the user during normal viewing. The article outlines that they offer this protection in 3 tiers, actually: standard, medium, and high.
Okay, let's go through those.
Sure. So standard tackles the basic web hoarding techniques. It disables direct URL access to the image files and prevents you from simply clicking and dragging the photo onto your desktop.
Which stops the casual right-clickers.
Mm-hmm.
And the medium tier seems like the sweet spot for most professionals. It blocks screenshots using that blur technology we just talked about, but it also disables right-click saving, printing, and copying.
Right.
But crucial to the article's premise, it keeps the photos completely clear during normal viewing.
Yes, the viewing experience is intact.
Now, I have to push back on the third tier they offer, the high setting.
Okay, let's hear it.
The text says, this setting keeps a portion of each photo blurred at all times for the strongest possible deterrence. Doesn't that directly contradict the article's title?
Ah.
The whole premise is not ruining the client gallery experience. If I am trying to pick my favorite engagement photo and the bottom half is permanently out of focus, how am I supposed to evaluate it? Can digital security actually defeat the entire purpose of having a preview gallery?
Yeah, you are hitting on the central tension of digital rights management right there. The high setting is the extreme end of the friction scale, and it absolutely compromises the user experience.
It has to, right?
The source material frames this as a tool for the strongest deterrence. A photographer would only deploy this tier in highly specific, low-trust scenarios.
Like what?
Well, imagine a situation where a client has a history of theft, or perhaps the financial stakes for a specific set of images are extraordinarily high.
Okay, like commercial work, maybe.
Exactly. Commercial work where an ad agency wants to see proofs but hasn't signed the final contract. The high setting is a blunt instrument. If a client can't evaluate the photo, they won't buy it, sure. But for some creators who have been repeatedly burned, sacrificing some user experience for absolute control is just a necessary trade-off.
So what does this all mean for the scale of the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the invisible labor and the business models at risk here. When you or I look at a photo in a gallery, we are seeing the final fraction of a second. We see the flash.
Right, the end result.
We aren't seeing the iceberg of work underneath it.
And it is a massive iceberg. The text highlights all this unseen effort. We are talking hours of location scouting, client consultations, photographing, and then culling thousands of shots down to maybe 50 good ones.
Just going through them all takes forever.
Then there is color grading, retouching, managing server space, and formatting for delivery. When a client bypasses the checkout cart, they are claiming the culmination of all that professional labor without offering any compensation.
And it threatens a massive cross-section of the industry. The article lists very specific niches that rely almost entirely on a proofing model. Think about school portraits, youth sports leagues, dance studios, and large events.
Oh, absolutely.
In these models, the photographer usually shoots the entire event with zero upfront fee from the individual families. They take on all the financial risks.
Right, they're betting on the back end.
Exactly. They rely entirely on back-end sales, individual digital images, print packages, full gallery downloads. If a parent can just open the gallery on their phone, take a screenshot of their kid playing soccer, and post it to Facebook, their motivation to actually buy the $20 digital download just vanishes.
The entire business model collapses.
Yeah.
And the legal reality, which the article emphasizes, is that copyright defaults to the creator. Unless copyright is explicitly transferred in a written agreement, the photographer owns the image. Right. A private online gallery is a professional storefront. It is a point-of-sale system. Providing access to that storefront does not grant the visitor permission to reproduce, edit, or distribute the inventory.
It makes sense. Think about the last time you walked into a retail store. Just because the door is unlocked and a sweater is sitting on a display table right in front of you, you don't assume you can just shove it in your bag and walk out.
No, you would be arrested.
Right. The digital world has boundaries too. But up to this point, our discussion has focused entirely on protecting the creator, protecting their copyright, their brand, their wallet.
Right, the financial side. But the text introduces a critical pivot here. Image protection is not merely a financial tool for the photographer. It is a vital mechanism for protecting the vulnerability of the subjects in the photos.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The article lists several highly sensitive categories of photography. We're talking boudoir sessions, newborn photography, private family portraits, school photos of minors, and highly private corporate events.
These are intensely intimate moments.
Extremely intimate.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, an unauthorized screenshot in a boudoir gallery isn't just about a photographer losing a $50 print sale. It represents a massive, devastating breach of client privacy.
Yeah, that is terrifying.
If someone gains unauthorized access to that gallery, perhaps a link was shared improperly or a password was guessed and they begin taking screenshots, those highly personal images are suddenly severed from the controlled environment.
They're out in the wild.
Exactly. They are totally out of the subject's control. The stakes instantly shift from a copyright dispute to a profound privacy violation.
It is like the digital equivalent of the curtains in a department store dressing room.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
You are in there, in a vulnerable state, evaluating how something looks. You wouldn't tolerate someone holding a camera up to the crack in the physical door.
Of course not.
So why would we accept a digital system where anyone with the link can effortlessly copy and distribute a private gallery? The blur feature acts as a lock on that digital curtain. It protects the person inside just as fiercely as it protects the architect who built the room.
It forces us to reframe screenshot protection as an ethical imperative for client safety, not just a monetization tool.
Wow, yeah.
However, the article brings us back to a sobering technological reality.
There is always a catch.
Always. Despite the ingenuity of CSS blur filters and API intercepts, no digital curtain is entirely foolproof.
Right, the ultimate loophole. In tech circles, they actually call it the analog hole. The article admits that no online protection is guaranteed because a highly motivated person can simply bypass the software entirely.
Picture a bank vault. You can install 10-foot steel doors, biometric retina scanners, and laser grids. But if you put a giant glass window on the side of the vault, a thief doesn't need to hack the keypad.
No, they just look through the window.
Right, they can just stand across the street with a pair of binoculars and read the documents inside. The analog hole is the digital equivalent. A user can simply open the gallery on their laptop, pick up their smartphone, point the camera at the laptop monitor, and take a physical photograph of the screen.
So my immediate thought is if the vault has a giant glass window, why are we spending all this time and money installing the biometric locks? If someone can just take a photo of the screen with another phone, why bother engineering these complex blur features at all?
Because security is rarely about absolute impenetrable perfection.
Okay.
It is about friction. Taking a screenshot is a one-handed, half-second operation that you can do while waiting in line for coffee.
Right. It takes zero thought.
But setting up a second device, trying to avoid the glare from the monitor, dealing with the moire effect, those weird wavy lines you get when you take a picture of a screen.
Oh, yeah, those are so annoying.
Right, and trying to hold your hands steady to get a clear shot that requires intent. It requires actual effort. The goal of the blur feature isn't to stop a determined, malicious thief. It is to disrupt the casual, thoughtless theft.
Ah.
It makes the unauthorized route just annoying enough that the client abandons the effort and is gently guided back to the intended path, which is the checkout cart.
So it is a layered defense system. The article outlines how photographers combine the blur feature with a whole arsenal of other tactics to create an interlocking system of frustration for anyone trying to bypass the rules.
Yeah, they don't just rely on one mechanism. A photographer might combine the screenshot blur with controlled download settings, ensuring that even if an image is legitimately downloaded, it is only a low-resolution file.
Something suitable for a phone screen, not for printing a canvas.
Exactly. And they pair that with gallery expiration dates, so the images aren't sitting on a server indefinitely exposed to future vulnerabilities.
They also use password protection, client-specific access codes, and written contracts that clearly define usage terms. But the text is careful to point out that this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Context dictates the security level.
Right. The article makes a crucial distinction between a proofing gallery and a final delivery gallery.
Okay, break that down.
Think of a proofing gallery as the fitting room. The client is making selections, the images haven't been purchased, and the financial vulnerability for the photographer is at its highest.
Right.
That is where you deploy the blur feature, disable the downloads, and require the passwords.
But the final delivery gallery is like walking out of the store with your shopping bags. The transaction is complete.
Exactly. Once the client has purchased the digital rights, the security apparatus needs to get out of the way. The strict screenshot protections are turned off.
You want it to be easy then.
Right. The focus shifts entirely to a seamless, frictionless downloading experience, perhaps just maintaining a basic password to protect the subject's privacy. The text actually provides a checklist for photographers to evaluate their settings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, have the images been paid for? Is this for selection or delivery? Does the gallery contain sensitive, intimate content? The photographer has to constantly balance the need for security with the need for a positive client experience.
And that journey really highlights the complexities of creating and delivering professional work in a medium that was, fundamentally designed for unrestricted, frictionless sharing.
It is a totally different landscape now.
It is. We started by examining the mindless muscle memory reflex of taking a screenshot. We explored how software developers are engineering clever behavioral countermeasures like the blur feature, tapping into operating system signals to actively interrupt our habits.
And we looked at the immense invisible labor and financial risk that necessitates these tools.
Exactly. And we discovered that this technology is just as much about protecting the intimate privacy of the subject as it is about protecting the copyright of the creator.
This raises an important question for all of us regarding the nature of our digital interactions.
I'm listening.
The entire trajectory of the internet has been toward the elimination of friction, right? One-click purchasing, infinite scrolling, instant saving.
Make it as easy as possible.
But here, we see an industry recognizing that a completely frictionless environment can hollow out the value of the very things we are trying to consume. Sometimes, a little bit of carefully engineered friction is necessary to remind us that art, labor, and privacy have tangible value.
So, to you listening, the next time you are scrolling through a proofing gallery or really any original digital content, take a moment to consider the invisible iceberg of work that went into producing that final image. Think about your own default interactions with digital previews. Consider the boundaries that creators are forced to build just to survive in a frictionless ecosystem.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We have spent this time discussing how technology interrupts our convenience to protect commerce and privacy. But consider the philosophical shift happening here.
Okay.
For years, we have treated the screenshot as a way to perfectly freeze a moment, to hoard memories with zero effort. As our devices become sophisticated enough to actively fight our attempts to capture them, how will this change our human relationship with memory?
That is deep.
When the screen intentionally blurs, refusing to let you capture a moment for free, will it force us to slow down? Will that tiny moment of friction compel us to finally value and perhaps truly invest in the art of capturing a memory, rather than endlessly, mindlessly consuming it?
It changes the entire way we look at our screens. Remember, you can't just take a picture of the sample cake and serve it to your guests. Thank you for joining us on another deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep looking past the surface, and keep digging deep into the world around you. We will catch you next time.
The Focus Shift podcast is presented by PhotoBiz, the best website solution for photographers. Whether you're launching your site or scaling your online business, PhotoBiz has your back. To get started for free, visit photobiz.com today.